All right, welcome to the deep dive. We've got a stack of fresh sources here shared by you, and we're going to take a look at what's happening right now in, well, the ever-shifting world of cybersecurity. Our goal for this deep dive is pretty straightforward. Go through these different articles and reports, pull out the really important insights, and just help you feel genuinely up to speed on the threats making headlines. We'll be touching on quite a bit, everything from, you know, clever fake websites trying to fool you, to mobile threats, and even some critical bugs that have been hiding out for years.
And looking at these together, it's striking how they really show the sheer variety of attack vectors. It's not just one thing.
Right.
Hitting us from different angles, exploiting trust, technical flaws, even the basic infrastructure of the web.
Exactly. It really paints a picture of a really dynamic challenge, doesn't it? So let's get into these sources and pull out those crucial nuggets of knowledge. Okay, first up, something that really preys on, well, your attention online. Fake websites. One source we have details how threat hunters found these deceptive sites that look like familiar names, DocuSign, Gitcode, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and what's concerning here isn't just, a fake login page asking for your password. The investigation actually found these sites are designed to trick users into running malicious PowerShell scripts on their own computers.
PowerShell. So hang on, this isn't just clicking a bad download file. They're using a built-in Windows tool to run code. That feels, well, more sophisticated.
It is, definitely. And the key insight, I think, is that attackers are hiding this malicious activity inside legitimate tools like PowerShell, which, makes it tougher for standard security software to catch because it can look like normal system stuff happening. The source described it as a multi-stage downloader. So think of it like the malware arriving in pieces. Each bit seems less suspicious on its own.
Until they assemble the final payload.
Exactly, which in this case was the NetSupport RAT malware.
A RAT, a remote access tool.
Yeah.
Okay, that gives the attackers pretty serious control, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Significant control. They can remotely access your machine, see files, run programs, maybe even log what you type. It really shows how hackers are moving beyond just simple phishing. They're leveraging legitimate tools, multi-step processes, all to sort of fly under the radar.
It just underscores how important it is to double-check those URLs. Right. And be really suspicious of unexpected downloads or scripts, even if the site looks okay at first glance.
Definitely. Vigilance is key.
Okay, so that covers attacks playing on user vigilance. Now let's shift gears. Let's look at problems hiding deep inside the tech itself. This next source, honestly, reveals something almost unbelievable. A critical bug sitting undiscovered in widely used webmail software for, get this, 10 years.
Yeah, this is about the Roundcube webmail platform, a really popular one. Researchers found this critical vulnerability. It's tracked as CVE 2025-49113, and it scores a 9.9 out of 10 on the CVSS severity scale.
A 9.9, wow. That's basically the highest possible score for severity, isn't it?
It really is. The CVSS scale is how we measure how bad these things are. A 9.9 means it's easy to exploit, and the potential impact is, well, massive, often full system compromise.
Okay, but what's the catch? Is there one?
There's a condition. You need to be an authenticated user to exploit it.
So an attacker would need login details for that specific Roundcube system first. They can't just attack it from the outside cold.
That's right. It's what we call a post-authenticated remote code execution flaw. But, if an attacker gets credentials maybe through phishing, maybe like those fake sites we just talked about.
Right. Connect the dots.
Then they could use those credentials, exploit this vulnerability, and potentially take complete control of the server running Roundcube.
10 years, though. That's the really staggering part.
It is the big takeaway. Critical vulnerabilities can hide for a decade, even in widely used software. It's a stark reminder that just because software is established doesn't mean it's automatically secure. Patching is vital.
And speaking of attackers getting credentials, sometimes the easiest way in isn't finding a hidden code flaw. It's targeting people directly. Which brings us neatly to the source discussing help desk scams and specifically mentioning a group called Scattered Spider.
Right. This is a classic, almost textbook example of social engineering just bypassing all the technical defenses you might have. Scattered Spider became pretty notorious for some successful high-profile attacks on major companies, basically by just tricking employees.
So how does the help desk scam actually work? Are they just like calling people up, pretending to be IT?
Often, yes, exactly that. Or sending messages. They impersonate internal IT support, the help desk, They sound totally legitimate. Maybe you use some internal jargon they found, and they convince employees to do things that give them access.
Like what kind of things?
Oh, resetting passwords for them, maybe granting VPN access, sometimes even asking them to install some required software, which is actually malicious, that sort of thing.
Wow.
And it works because it plays on trust, right? And an employee's natural tendency to be helpful and follow instructions from someone they think is official IT.
It's like weaponizing helpfulness against people just doing their jobs. You get a call from IT, they sound convincing, maybe urgent.
Yeah.
You follow their steps, and boom, you've accidentally handed over the keys.
Precisely. It really highlights that security isn't just about, stronger firewalls or patching software faster. The human element, that's often the most vulnerable point. And attackers absolutely know how to exploit that trust.
Okay, so we've got exploiting users, exploiting old code, exploiting trust. What about our phones? Beyond exploiting people or finding hidden bugs in web services, our mobile lives are obviously huge targets too. This next source details an Android Trojan called Crocodilus.
Yes, Crocodilus. It's a banking Trojan, and the report notes it's been expanding its reach significantly, now hitting 8 countries across Europe and South America, and it's specifically going after banking apps and crypto wallets on Android phones.
Okay, another banking Trojan. What makes this one stand out? Is it using any, new tricks or techniques?
Well, the report highlights that it uses improved obfuscation techniques.
Obfuscation, meaning?
Basically, making the code deliberately hard to read and analyze, so it's trickier for mobile security tools and researchers to figure out exactly what it's doing and detect it. But what's also quite unusual, and frankly a bit creepy, is its reported ability to create new contacts on the victim's phone.
Create new contacts. Why would a banking Trojan want to do that? That seems odd.
It does seem odd at first. But it could be setting things up for future attacks. Maybe sending malicious links or messages later that look like they're coming from someone in your contact list, perhaps. Even if it's a name you don't immediately recognize, it might lower your guard.
Interesting tactic.
It just shows how mobile malware is constantly evolving,
Yeah.
adapting its methods, trying to become harder to spot, more effective at spreading, or just achieving its goal, which is usually stealing money or data.
Definitely a concern for anyone managing finances or crypto on their Android phone. Something to watch out for. Right, finally, let's step back a bit. Let's look at something really foundational to online trust, something most people probably don't think about day to day. Certificate authorities. This source reports that Google Chrome is taking a pretty big step distrusting 2 of them.
Yeah, this really gets to the heart of how your browser verifies website identities. The padlock icon, the HTTPS in the address bar. Certificate authorities, or CAs, are these supposedly trusted third parties. They issue the digital certificates that confirm a website is who it claims to be. Browsers like Chrome maintain lists of CAs they trust.
And Google is removing 2 Chunghwa Telecom and NetLock from Chrome's trusted list in an upcoming version.
Exactly. It's slated for Chrome 139, which is expected around August 2025. Google apparently cited patterns of concerning behavior observed over the past year. Now, the report doesn't dive into the specific details of that behavior.
But it implies Google lost confidence.
Precisely. Lost confidence in their ability to properly issue and manage certificates. And that's absolutely critical for maintaining online trust. If you can't trust the certificate issuer, how can you trust the site?
Okay, so from a user's perspective, what actually happens when Chrome stops trusting a CA like this?
Well, any website using a certificate issued by one of those now distrusted CAs will trigger a big, significant security warning in Chrome. The browser will basically say, hold on, we can't reliably verify this site's identity. It might even make it difficult or impossible to access the site easily or safely.
Wow. So even if I'm trying to visit a perfectly legitimate site, if they happen to be using one of these certificates, Chrome will essentially block me or give me a scary warning.
That's the effect, yes. It disrupts that fundamental trust layer of the web. It can make navigating the web feel less secure and more difficult, even if the website itself isn't malicious. It's purely because it relies on a CA the browser no longer deems trustworthy.
That sounds like a really big deal.
It is a big deal. These CAs are like the digital passport issuers for websites. Their reliability, or lack thereof, directly impacts the security experience for, billions of Chrome users. So reflecting on this whole deep dive, looking across the sources you shared. We've really covered quite a range, haven't we? We started with attackers using fake sites, leveraging built-in tools like PowerShell. Then we jumped to discovering these decade-old, really critical vulnerabilities hiding in widely used software like Roundcube. We explored how social engineering bypasses tech defenses, through scams like those fake help desk calls. Tracked the evolution of mobile threats targeting our banking and crypto with Crocodilus. And finally, we even looked at issues shaking the very foundation of web trust with these certificate authority problems.
It really hammers home that online security isn't just one single problem, is it? There's no single silver bullet. Seeing all these different angles like we have here from these sources really helps you appreciate just how multifaceted the whole challenge is, and why staying safe means thinking about trust and software and human behavior kind of all at the same time.
It certainly does. And thinking about all these different attack surfaces we've discussed, from your browser's trust settings and maybe your webmail security to the links you might click on a fake site or the calls you might get trying to impersonate IT or even just the apps running on your phone. It prompts a pretty valuable personal reflection, I think. So maybe a final thought based on all this, given everything we've talked about in these sources, the different methods, the different targets, what aspect of your own digital life feels perhaps most vulnerable to you right now, and thinking about why that might be the case, based on the kinds of attacker methods we're seeing.
That's a really powerful question to mull over. Where are you personally most exposed to these kinds of threats in your daily online life?
Well, thank you again for sharing these specific sources with us. They gave us a really fascinating snapshot of the current cybersecurity landscape and plenty to dig into for this deep dive.